We are all here because we all believe that literacy is a civil right and that each and every one of our children in Oregon deserves access to reading. And at Oregon Kids Read, we have been pushing state leaders to fully fund and offer teacher training in the science of reading to every K-5 teacher and reading specialist at our most struggling schools. That's why we're here tonight.
Many that are around me probably comes out of my mouth on most days. But when you look at this, that we have a literacy crisis. And I want to make sure I say this right from the very beginning. Oregon teachers aren't to be blamed for what they don't know. Matter of fact, you're going to hear from some amazing teachers tonight, and teachers that when I first asked about anybody being interested in going to letters training, just saying, I want this, right? I want to learn this. I am going to meet the needs of my kids. And I think that's a really important message to start with, is that it's about getting better at getting better. Research that states that reading problems are preventable when we have appropriate instruction. The idea that when intensive help is provided, students are able to improve. And so I feel strongly about making sure that we do everything in our power that we can to ensure that teachers have all of the tools so that they're able to support kids and get them to read. The majority of the teachers that are on the panel were the first group of teachers and administrators that started the letters training in spring of 2020. My daughter was sitting side by side me when we were doing the training. So powerful that teachers said, sign me up. I want to do this. And I think it's important to start with that there's five pillars of early literacy. So you can see phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension. And so when people, I hear this all the time, they say, oh, Tania, there's this new reading program called the Science of Reading. I said, it's not a reading program, right? There's actually decades of research out there that has identified what we need to be teaching students to ensure that we have effective reading instruction. When you look at this, this ladder, 5% learning to read seems effortless. Learning to read is relatively easy with broad instruction, but 40 to 50% learning to read proficiently requires code-based, explicit, systematic, and sequential instruction. And then you see the 10 to 15%. Right? Learning to read requires code-based and repetition, diagnostic. And we talk about our students that have dyslexia. And structured and explicit instruction does benefit all kids. It doesn't harm any students. And it's critical to ensure that our students that struggle the most get what they need so that they can be successful. We know there's a reading crisis, right? I gave you those statistics. And there's also something that we can do about it, right? And teachers have been telling us that there's something we can do about it.
I was always a little lost as to how to help my struggling readers. For example, our class would talk about how certain letter combinations made certain sounds, but I could never really tell them the how and the why. I knew that piece was missing for me. I couldn't figure it out for myself, and I couldn't unlock it for them. And I knew that was a piece I needed to figure out. And I certainly never realized the importance of phonemic awareness. I was never confident in my schedule that I put together, and I had no idea really where to focus my energy. And that's where letters came in for me. I have kids that are excited, and the most engagement I've seen. They're confident, and I now hear things like, oh, I get it now, when they're reading, or they're excited to show me what we've been working on when they find it in their books and they're reading.
I taught second grade for 13 years, and I love reading. I love teaching reading, but I felt like I wasn't reaching the kids. And it was terrible for me. And I realized that when I graduated, I was never taught how to teach reading. And I'm so excited for the Letters program because I've been asking and searching out, how am I going to teach reading? Why aren't these kids meeting grade level? And so when Letters came on, they said, do you want to go do this Letters? Oh yeah, I want to see. You know, I thought it was another curriculum because really we kept getting curriculum after curriculum, but a curriculum says one size fits all. And we know one size doesn't fit all when it comes to learning for kids. I'm really into our kids of color who are not getting reading. And it doesn't matter where you come from, your social economic. I know a lot of people say, well, that kid's not reading because the family life and everything. We can't control that. But with the letters program, it helped us to focus on getting that kid where it needs to be and forgetting about the things that we can't control.
I just want to say that with Oregon Kids Read, as I mentioned before, we're all volunteer. We're an advocacy network. We have no financial or other affiliation with Letters or with Voyager Sopris, the parent company. We are advocating for it because, as Cathy has pointed out, and Heather and Tania, it's scalable, it's affordable, and we are also still advocating and asking higher ed institutions to join in partnership with us in this work. And I do want to make a shout out to Eastern Oregon University, who are very dedicated to revamping their curriculum around the science of reading in their teacher prep program. And they also are offering graduate credit for teachers going through Letters. So a huge thank you to them. It's part of the process of how we fix this pipeline issue of teachers not getting what they need at the teacher prep level.
Well, first, I just want to say the power in this is with all of our teachers. Our teachers are so amazing and so willing to jump in. Our school shifted not only to like jumping into the letters work and into the science of reading, but also we went into a departmentalized approach. And so we actually have, like we heard from Heather earlier, she's teaching every single second grader how to read. And so there's not going to be this like haves and have-nots, and all of our teachers jumped on board with this. So at every grade level, we have a teacher that got letters trained and is kind of rolling that out along there with the entire grade level. And so for that, what that did is really allowed us to now have conversations across grade levels about, with the same background information and knowledge around how do we support our kids, where did they leave off before, and what are the pieces we still need to be working on. And it just gives us that common language and that understanding of, where are the gaps and how do we move that forward. I just think it changes the game for teachers, and teachers want to feel successful and want to have the tools in order to move kids forward. It makes your job, even though the life of a teacher is very stressful, it's way more enjoyable when you see the progress that you're making and you can understand what your next move is. Because the letters training, like I heard Tania say earlier, it's not a program. It's about the fact of having the tools to be able to teach kids how to read effectively. And so at any grade level now, you're equipping those teachers with all the tools to meet a kid no matter where they're at. It's not like the tools change for your fifth grade teacher to your second grade teacher to your kindergarten teacher. You just need to know how to deliver them. And so I think that's the biggest piece that changed for us. And that's the biggest piece that we're seeing within our school. And then I think just the model of doing it, what you do is you see the excitement of teachers like wanting to come and join that progress and wanting to come and join that piece. So what I would encourage is for all schools to be thinking about how do we bring this in so that we can equip all of our teachers that are teaching reading with the tools they need in order to feel successful and move kids forward.
So students who have dyslexia, we all learn to read by making those same pathways in that same space. Students who have dyslexia, they're going to need more repetitions. So with this, you can catch students earlier, see earlier on, if you are teaching this way, maybe there is something going on. Maybe this student has dyslexia and we need to get them some intervention.
The inspiration for this forum is urging state leaders to find the money to offer this training to all K-5 teachers and reading specialists in our most struggling schools. And so as a second grade teacher who's gone through the training, what would you like to say to state leaders who are considering this, making that investment, especially if we're looking at, smaller districts or rural districts or coastal districts that might not have the same kind of access to resources as PPS?
I would urge anybody that can to use letters. This is my 17th year teaching, and I just think of all those struggling readers I had before and how painful teaching reading could be sometimes. And it didn't need to be. It just really didn't need to be that way. If only I had this sooner, if only I had this in grad school, I probably would have felt a bit more confident about myself also.
I want to just take a minute to thank every single one of the panelists for your words tonight. It's not easy to share about things that we didn't know in the past, and it's processing some real disappointment and grief sometimes about that, and then moving towards the ability to really reach all students. And so thank you for sharing that journey with us. We invite you to continue this advocacy journey with us in moving the state forward, in taking some of the lessons and the hard work that have been done at Portland Public Schools and offering that to the rest of the state, regardless of how well or under-resourced your particular district may be. I would like, with your permission, to close tonight just to refocus why this conversation is so vital. I know that some of you may remember that a couple of years ago, here in the Portland metro area, a young man was arrested after bringing a gun to his high school. And I just want to read to you a line from the Oregonian article after that happened. He, the young man, he told officers that his poor performance in school, even when he studied hard for tests and tried to stay organized, was a primary driver of his sense of hopelessness. And I'm leaving that sentence with you because this feels like a very hopeful conversation. It's what we want for all of our children. We want every single child who's trying their best to feel a sense of hope and accomplishment. And I'm so grateful to each and every one of you for participating in this conversation tonight. I hope it's the first of many, because we all believe that literacy is a civil right.